Greetings tubers, Soccer Man here. Just a quick little update. It's approaching, where are we? Near the end of July 2013. I'm making almost no progress on the bike at this point in time, just too busy doing other things, unfortunately. Just a quick update. A month or so ago, I'm working on the oil cooler just because it's a smaller project here. It's all been sandblasted, which came out really, really nice, as you can see. But the bolts were all basically rusted out, so I sandblasted them. And my buddy Dave, the original owner, is also a model railroader, and he had some stuff here called Blacken It. They don't tell you what it is. They sell this in the model railroad hobby community for some exorbitant amount of money. But Caswell plating has a kit to it, some kind of nitrate that will basically turn ferrous metal black. So worked out pretty well. I basically did all these bolts here, the cap screws, and they've all been blackened up, and I've lubricated them. They're only going to last, I don't know, as long as it's going to take. Hopefully I'm not going to be out in the weather too much with the Enfield, but anyway, they're black. So what I'm doing right now, just reading the instructions, and I'm going to get my Caswell copycat plating set up. So we're going to start doing some zinc plating basically. The process is you zinc plate the parts. You don't add the brightener so it doesn't go bright, and then they give you this kind of like a Scotch-Brite wheel type thing, and you can dull down the finish a little bit, and supposedly it looks very similar to cadmium plating, but without the harmful process of doing cadmium plating. So zinc plating is pretty straightforward to do. You know, in your garage, there's no major harmful chemicals. I'll walk through the process once I get it set up here. And I'm going to do a little experiment. So I've got the bolts here for the oil cooler. So I'm going to clean these up. It's basically a process. I'll wash them first in the parts washer. Then I'll sandblast them, and then into the degreaser, and then a rinse, and then into the plating solution. So we'll see how it turns out. There's going to be piles and piles of small parts to be done. I'm doing this because I just couldn't bring myself to give up, you know, 300 or 400 small parts to a shop to CAD plate them. They can go vastly wrong and go missing, and have some crazy stuff done with it. So there's the kit as it comes, so to speak, with my thermometers and various other things. For the heating up the solution, I purchased a fairly cheap aquarium thermometer, and I popped it apart. You know, if you're going to do this, get the ones that'll pop apart. So I popped it apart and snapped the tab off because the solution should be up around 110 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't cook your fish that far unless you want to eat them. So so I snapped the little stopping tab off, and that allowed me to turn the dial far enough to get it up to that temperature. So I'm going to get that all ready to go, and I'll give you a little preview and see how it goes on my first parts. Cheers! Hey tubers, how you doing? Here's my midpoint update. I've got the chemistry set all ready to go, so I'm just waiting for the degreaser to come up to temperature. So the basic setup is, I guess if I look at the process, so I've got sandblast cabinet ready to go, and I'm going to, when it's brand new, you're supposed to plate a part for about 30 minutes to start out with. Oops, so it's in the cabinet, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, but down here in the cabinet right there, I've just cut off a piece of mild steel angle iron, just 1 inch angle, and it had a hole conveniently drilled in it. So it's a little bit dirty, not really a lot of rust on it, but it looks like it's got a little grease on it or whatever. So my process is going to be on a part that's where the surface is all available, and that to basically just sandblast, bead blast the part. That will clean everything. If it's particularly greasy coming off the bike, I will pre-wash it in the Varsol tank basically. So wash in the Varsol tank, come over here, bead blast it, and then if there's no rust, or if it's a part where the entire surface area is available for bead blasting, then I will just bead blast it. Then it goes into the degreaser for 3 to 5 minutes. I'm just waiting on the degreaser to come up. Temp should be between 160 Fahrenheit and 190. The closer to the 190, the better. And then it comes out of there and drops into the rinse bucket. And from there it goes into the plating solution. Plate for whatever amount of time is going to take for that particular part. There's some calculations to be done on that. And then from there into the rinse bucket. And we are done. The fish tank heater that I'm using here works well, but it's not really fast. So I'm not sure if it'll work in the long run. The large heater here does not have a thermostat, so I could get an external thermostat. I'm just not sure how a temperature probe would work inside the solution during the plating process. So what I did temporarily to speed up the process was I rinsed off the heater that is in the degreaser, the heavy duty one. I dropped it into the plating solution to get it up to about 110, a little over actually, it was that fast. And then I've taken it out, and then I can use the small aquarium heater just to hold the temperature, because it's pretty warm here today, well, relatively warm, 24-25 degrees Celsius, and it was still taking a long time to get up to temperature. So anyway, so the plating solution's ready to go, just waiting on a degreaser to get a little warmer, and then I'm going to sandblast the part, degrease it, rinse it, plate it, rinse it, and this will just be a test piece basically to do for 30 minutes to break in the system basically is what they want it to do. So anyway, so there we go. And if when I get into some parts that I can't necessarily blast or get all areas, then I have also mixed up the muriatic acid, 4-to-1 ratio. That's particularly nasty stuff, so it'll only be done on decent weather days where I can have that entire bucket sitting outside. And so then the process will be bead blast as much as I can into the muriatic acid, rinse into the degreaser, rinse into the muriatic acid, rinse, and then into the plating solution and rinse. So there's the setup. I've got everything all mixed up. It took quite a while to get everything set up the first time, but now it's basically just going to be pop it out, get the heaters going, and I'm off to the races. So, and then that's my small power supply, 5-amp power supply. That should do anything that I need to do. I think my biggest concern is I only got the 1.5 gallon kit, so these buckets are not all that big. And I could conceivably have a few parts that are going to be too long or large to fit into that little tank. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Maybe I need to get a bigger kit at some point. Anyway, so I'll let you know how my test went with my piece of angle iron, and if it all goes well and everything's broken in, then I'll start doing some non-critical parts on the infield. Like I mentioned, I'll start with the bracketry or the bolts anyway that holds the bracketry for the oil cooler. Take care. Cheers.